The road to Hollow Creek was one that most travelers avoided. It was not marked on any map, and the locals spoke of it in hushed tones, referring to it only as the path. Stories about the place varied some. Spoke of ghostly apparitions, others of strange disappearances. For Natalie, these tales were nothing more than folklore, exaggerated accounts meant to entertain or frighten. She had always been drawn to the mysterious, and when she heard about the path, she knew she had to experience it for herself. It was late afternoon when Natalie arrived at the entrance to the path. The sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the dense forest that bordered the road. The air was heavy with the earthy scent of moss and decaying leaves. Her car's GPS had long since lost signal, leaving her to rely on her instincts and the faint directions given by a cryptic old man at the last gas station. "Keep your wits about you," he had said, his weathered face etched with concern. The path was narrow and overgrown, more suited to foot traffic than a vehicle. Natalie parked her car at the edge and stepped out, her boots crunching against the gravel. The forest loomed ahead, its trees like sentinels guarding some ancient secret. She felt a pang of hesitation but quickly dismissed it. This was an adventure, nothing more. As she ventured deeper into the forest, the sunlight grew weaker, filtered through the thick canopy of leaves overhead. The air seemed cooler here, and the usual sounds of nature were strangely absent. No birdsong, no rustling of small animals, just an oppressive silence that seemed to amplify her every step. The path twisted and turned, its destination obscured by the dense foliage. Natalie walked for what felt like hours, though her watch told her it had only been 30 minutes. She paused to take a sip of water, her eyes scanning the trees around her. That's when she noticed it. A small clearing up ahead, bathed in an unnatural golden light. Curiosity propelled her forward. The clearing was circular, its perimeter marked by stones that appeared weathered and ancient. At its center stood a single tree, its bark pale and smooth like polished bone. The tree bore no leaves, only twisted branches that reached skyward like skeletal arms. Natalie felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as if the tree were calling to her. She stepped into the clearing, the golden light casting an ethereal glow on her skin. As she approached the tree, she noticed something carved into its bark symbols that she couldn't decipher, their lines intricate and flowing. She traced one with her finger, and a chill ran through her body. The air around her seemed to vibrate, a low hum that she felt in her bones. A sudden noise broke the silence, a whisper, barely audible but unmistakable. Natalie spun around, her heart pounding. The clearing was empty, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. The whisper came again, this time louder, more distinct. It wasn't a single voice, but many, overlapping in a dissonant harmony. She backed away from the tree, her pulse racing. The golden light dimmed, replaced by a deep, foreboding shadow that seemed to seep from the forest itself. The whispers grew louder, forming words she couldn't understand. Natalie's instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs felt leaden, rooted to the ground. Then she saw them figures emerging from the shadows. They were human-like but distorted, their features obscured by the darkness that clung to them like a second skin. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, as if they were marionettes controlled by invisible strings. Natalie's breath caught in her throat as they began to circle her, their whispers blending into a cacophony that seemed to pierce her mind. "What do you want?" she managed to choke out, her voice barely audible. One of the figures stepped closer, its face becoming clearer. It was a woman, her eyes empty sockets that seemed to pull at Natalie's very soul. The woman raised a hand, pointing toward the tree. Natalie followed the gesture, her gaze landing on the carved symbols once more. They were glowing now, pulsing with an otherworldly light. The figures closed in, their whispers becoming a single, unified chant. Natalie felt her body move against her will, her feet carrying her toward the tree. Her mind screamed in protest, but her body obeyed the unseen force compelling her forward. She reached out, her hand trembling as it touched the glowing symbols. The moment her fingers made contact, a surge of energy coursed through her. The world around her dissolved into darkness, the figures in the clearing vanishing as if they had never been. Natalie found herself standing in a different place, entirely a vast, empty plain beneath a sky filled with swirling, iridescent lights. The ground beneath her was smooth and cold, like polished stone. In the distance, she saw a figure, the same woman from before. But here, she appeared whole, her features sharp and striking. Her eyes were no longer empty sockets, but pools of light that seemed to hold all the knowledge of the universe. She approached Natalie, her movements fluid and graceful. "You should not have come," the woman said, her voice resonating in Natalie's mind rather than her ears. "The path was not meant for you." "What is this place?" Natalie asked, her voice barely a whisper. "A place between," the woman replied. "A realm that exists beyond your understanding. You have trespassed, and now you must choose." "Choose what?" Natalie's voice cracked with fear. The woman extended her hand, revealing a small objecta pendant made of the same polished stone as the ground beneath them. "Take this, and you may leave. But know that you will carry its burden for the rest of your days. Refuse, and you will remain here, a part of this realm, forever." Natalie hesitated, her mind racing. The pendant seemed to pulse with a faint energy, its surface etched with the same symbols as the tree. She reached out, her fingers closing around it. The moment she did, the world shifted again, the iridescent lights and the woman fading into nothingness. She awoke on the forest floor, the morning sun filtering through the trees. Her body ached, and her mind was a foggy haze. The clearing was gone, replaced by an unbroken expanse of forest. She clutched the pendant in her hand, its surface cool and smooth. Natalie never spoke of what happened that night, but the pendant never left her. It seemed to grow heavier with each passing day, a constant reminder of the choice she had made. And though she never returned to the path, she often felt its pull, a whisper in the back of her mind that she could never quite silence. The road to Hollow Creek remained unmarked, its secrets guarded by the forest and the whispers of those who dared to tread its path.